from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday night. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. We're going to get into some music, new music. There's a number one iTunes song. It's a song. It's a Trump song, plus some of the controversy with the rappers that are endorsing Trump and so much more. P. Diddy's been put on suicide watch. I mean, we've got tons to talk about tonight. And the House passed a bill to boost Secret Service protection for presidential candidates, both Kamala Harris and El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. And the bill, in effect, calls for both candidates to get the same level of protection that Joe El Baboso Biden gets, right? So this was unanimously passed today. President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris will have the same Secret Service protection that President Joe Biden gets. I think that is a wise thing. A wise thing for shizzle. Because ultimately, the last thing these guys want. Now, when I say these guys, I mean the bureaucrats that have to show face, not necessarily the deep state that, or the members of the media that have pretty much been, all but praying for Trump, to be hit and hurt and out of the race. But the bureaucrats, they don't want this. They don't want egg on their face. The last thing, honestly, God forbid, I don't even like talking about this, but imagine Joe Biden as president of the United States having to give a bad news like that. Unbelievable, right? I think he would lose a lot of credit with a lot of people, and this would bode very poorly for Kamala Harris as well, because then they'd be like, you guys literally turned a blind eye and let the bad guys take out your opponent, and that would be, I think it would be very bad for them, no matter how bad they try to spin it. So that's my thought. I'm sure there's plenty of you that disagree with me. But that's what happened today. And this is the first time, and maybe our guys in the studio, in the control room, can fact check me here. But I don't remember the last time I saw a unanimous vote like this, 405-0. Not the amount, obviously, but the fact that nobody voted against it. It was truly bipartisan. I think that's... I honestly don't remember. I'm sure there have been recently, but I just don't remember. Anyway, that was that story, and I thought that was a fair thing to do. Let's see what else we got here. That was Tara's. That's kind of boring. Oh, Hezbollah. Hezbollah is saying that the mass pager crotch attacks are a declaration of war, and this is interesting. Because they can say what they want, right? They got attacked, and that's fine. They were literally infiltrated, right? But what's more interesting to me is the reaction that we got from my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, all out crazy was on Capitol Hill just this week on Wednesday, and she says that it's important to identify that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization and that there are rules of war. Listen to this.
Why is it wrong to blow up a terrorist pager?
Well, currently, U.S. Department of Defense guidelines actually explicitly prohibits the use of booby traps.
They fired a rocket on a soccer field.
Now, this is very interesting to me. Very interesting to me because Hezbollah, as she appropriately said, is a terrorist organization. And Israel is an entire other country. Why we would look at the United States Department of Defense guidelines that actually explicitly prohibit the use of booby traps, that's her quote from her, is beyond me. It wasn't like the United States did any of this. Where would that come from? Right? Anyway, we didn't stop the tape in time, so Hillary Vaughn, who is interviewing AOC, says that they fired a rocket on a soccer field and 12 kids died just playing soccer. Go ahead.
12 kids died just playing soccer. You know, when you compare that to blowing up their pager, is that a disproportionate response?
It is important to identify that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization and that there are rules of war.
There are rules of war. Who are you putting these rules on? Now, I understand if you want to be a United States congresswoman and take shots at Netanyahu and Israel and the IDF and say that they're doing bad things, that's fine, but say that. Don't say that, well, currently U.S. Department of Defense guidelines actually explicitly prohibit the use of booby traps. Right? Let's play it again. This isn't that long. Play it right from the top.
Why is it wrong to blow up a terrorist pager?
Well, currently, U.S. Department of Defense guidelines actually explicitly prohibits the use of booby traps.
They fired a
Booby
rocket on a...
traps. So, again, just puzzled here. If anybody knows, let me know, please. Our phone number, by the way, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. I, for the life of me, don't know why she's referencing the United States Department of Defense guidelines when she's talking about military action between Israel and Hezbollah. Moreover, I don't even know that Israel said they did this. As far as I know, they were, mum was the word, but that was yesterday. I didn't really look into that today. So just the whole thing is quite striking to me. Anyway, President Trump is at the American-Israeli Council today, and he says that he's going to tell college presidents to end anti-Semitism or lose federal support. Listen to this.
And to confront the crisis of anti-Semitism at our universities, I will tell college presidents that they must end the anti-Semitic propaganda, or they will lose their accreditation and they will lose all federal support.
He went on to say that they're going to restore the travel ban to keep radicals out of our country.
I will ban refugee resettlement from terror-infested areas like the Gaza Strip. We will restore the travel ban, some people call it the Trump travel ban, and keep the radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. That was upheld by the Supreme Court, and it really did work. Again, we had no terrorist attacks into the United States. Think of it. Now I'm talking United States, if that's okay. We had no terrorist attacks for 4 years. Nothing. Nothing. They knew, don't play games with us. And we will deport the foreign jihad sympathizers and Hamas supporters from our midst. We will get them out. If you hate America, if you want to eliminate Israel, we will throw you out of our country so rapidly your head will spin.
That is El Trompito again, showing his support for Israel, and good for him for doing that. All I could say is this. I think AOC, all out crazy, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, needs to learn or figure out that Israel is its own country. If, in fact, they were responsible for this attack, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say I agree, they probably were. And it has nothing to do with the U.S. Department of Defense. But I don't want to be the first one to tell her, so you can help me out with that. Now, there's a song called Fighter, brand new song, hit #1 on Apple Music, and you're never going to guess who the singer-songwriter is for this film, for this song. It's film director Jon Kahn, and he's also the COO of Breitbart News. We're going to hear the song and talk with Jon briefly when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I've been down, counted out, smiling through the taste of blood in my own mouth. I got bruises and broken bones, but they don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do or dyer, a make it righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. I'm a fighter.
That's the song by Jon Kahn, brand new song called Fighter. It hit #1 on Apple Music, and Jon is with Breitbart News. He's with us now. Jon, welcome.
Rich, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So tell us, what inspired it? Do you always make music? Is it a side hustle for you? Is it your main hustle and Breitbart's the side hustle? Tell us how it works.
That's a great question. I'm still trying to figure all that out. I actually started in film as a writer-director and ended up at sort of a late age teaching myself how to play music and kind of had a little bit of a knack for it, and ended up getting a few songs placed in film and television. But I was sort of an undercover conservative in the entertainment industry. And back in 2008, I met Andrew Breitbart, and we became fast friends. And I began playing a song called American Heart during that Tea Party circuit in 2010.
Oh yeah.
And when Andrew sadly passed, I joined the company and wanted to continue helping spread the word and continue his mission. And I've been writing songs. Yeah, and then, in between, I've been going to Nashville and writing songs, and so keeping that artistic itch scratched, and while I've been working at Breitbart.
Very cool. Folks, again, Jon Kahn is our guest. He's a singer-songwriter. He's also at Breitbart News, and you could check out his website, jonkahnmusic.com. That's Kahn, K-A-H-N, and the song is called Fighter. Now, Jon, what was the inspiration for this particular song, Fighter?
So, I was sitting on the couch watching, that bogus New York trial with the bogus conviction, and I watched President Trump, after the conviction, walk up to the microphone with that walk that says, "You're never gonna beat me." And I just started shaking my head, and I thought, 2 impeachments, deplatforming, big tech against him, the media against him, Hollywood against him, all these charges all over 4 different states. And I just thought, this guy's a fighter. How does he get out of bed every day and do this? And I walked over the piano, which I'm not a good piano player by any stretch, and started playing with a few chords, came up with some lyrics, came up with the concept of fighter. And I had a Nashville trip scheduled where I was writing with Chris Wallen, who's written for Garth Brooks and Toby Keith and Kenny Chesney. He's an amazing songwriter. I'd never written with him before. But I got in the room with him, and I played him the idea. I knew he had the same ideology, and he said, "Let's do it." And so we batted it around for about an hour and a half, and we were really happy with it because we really wanted it to be, a character study of a man who never gives up, no matter what the world throws at him. And so hopefully we accomplished that.
Outstanding. Again, folks, the song is Fighter by Jon Kahn. You should check it out. Download it and make sure that you're supporting the cause here. It's called Fighter, and you can get it on Apple Music. Now, Jon, when you look at, I guess it was prescient, right? Did you get this completed before he yelled, "Fight, fight, fight," when he was nearly killed?
Well, that's the interesting part. This was completed. The song was written before that happened. And, when everybody saw that, of course, the world was stunned. When he yelled, "Fight, fight, fight," I got goosebumps all over my body because I know we had the song ready.
Yeah.
And I called Chris and I said, I think we've got to get this song produced and we've got to make it. And because, I mean, that's almost like God talking at that point. You just go, wait a minute. If he was a fighter then, he's a bigger fighter now. And so, we decided to release the song through Based Records. And, here we are today.
Outstanding. Now, have you seen, obviously you've seen some success with the song because it's, it hit #1 on Apple Music chart. But did you anticipate that level of success?
Well, you always hope when you're doing a song that you want to be mission oriented. You want it to be something people can share. For the cause, you always want it to take hold. But I woke up this morning and President Trump had put it on social media. He put it on Truth. He put it on Instagram, and it just went crazy. And my head has been spinning ever since. And what I'm most happy about is just the responses from Americans that understand that, the country's being gaslit by the media, that, they've used all these terms like the Hitler stuff, the Nazi stuff, the racist stuff, all these things that they throw out, which is just the left brand, doing their branding techniques. And most of the country doesn't believe it. And so it was really important for us with the song and the video to portray him how we believe Americans see him and how we see him. And so that's the story.
Outstanding. Now, when you're not doing music, how do you stay busy?
Well, I do have a day job at Breitbart News, which is another battle. We're in the trenches every day.
Yeah.
And when I take that hat off at the end of the day, I pick up my guitar and see what else I can come up with.
And if people want to learn more about the music and follow you and support you, where do they go?
Well, I think I guess Instagram would be the best thing. It's Jon Kahn Music, and that's JONKAHN Music. And I'm starting to use that more and more, and Twitter and Breitbart as well.
Outstanding. Jon Kahn, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for being here. Godspeed to you. I really hope you stay at #1 for as long as you can. The song, everybody, Fighter, it's on Apple Music. Make sure you check it out. Support the cause. Jon Kahn, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it.
You bet. And, folks, we're just getting started. We got a lot to go tonight. We're going to talk about trafficking, all the trafficking charges against Diddy. We've got an expert on trafficking that's going to join us a little bit later. Plus, I want to talk about the fallout from this Latin American rock band called Maná that put Nicky Jam under pressure after he endorsed Trump. They pretty much forced him to take down a photo that he had of Trump, and he succumbed to that pressure. We'll talk about that later with a reggaeton producer who's familiar with this stuff and get his take on it. Plus, my buddy Jesse Holguin, former gang member who was shot and then paralyzed. And now he dedicates his time to evangelism and supporting Trump to save America. He's going to join us as well. We've got a lot on the agenda tonight, so don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez. We're just getting started. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
And we have the latest on Sean Diddy Combs' investigation as the hip-hop star fights racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and prostitution charges. Well, investigators now working to determine who his co-conspirators were and whether they should be charged as well. TMZ is also reporting Diddy was placed on suicide watch at the detention center that he's being held at in New York. But his lawyer is saying he's not suicidal. This is just routine for high-profile inmates. Just this week, prosecutors say they served Combs' head of security with a search warrant for his electronic devices.
You can rest assured that the feds have already talked to the people who worked for Combs, and all of those people have already probably given statements.
The 54-year-old has pleaded not guilty to charges that he led a criminal conspiracy that abused women. The indictment alleges some of Combs' employees helped set up freak-offs in which women were forced into sexual acts with male prostitutes. Diddy remains isolated from the general population behind bars.
That's a report from WPLG in Miami. And again, Sean Diddy Combs, also used to be known as Puff Daddy or Puffy, P. Diddy for a while, now simply known as Diddy. He's on suicide watch in the Brooklyn jail where he awaits trial for his alleged sex crimes. And what's interesting about this is the same holding place, the sister holding place of where Jeffrey Epstein was, where he did, according to them, when the camera broke, commit suicide. Just crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff that's going on here. Now, they're saying it's a preventive measure that they're doing this. It's not because of anything with his mental status or anything like that. And the inmates are put on this, they say, because of a supervisory precaution. I don't know. I don't know how much any of this is accurate. I'm sure it is, you know. I mean, after you lose Epstein, what are you going to do, right? I put everybody on that stuff. Like, no, everybody's on suicide watch because we don't want to mess around with this stuff. Anyway, I want to get to the bottom of this because obviously, whether it's P. Diddy or anybody else that's in the sex trafficking business, there's a lot going on here and a lot that doesn't get reported and a lot that we need to know about. And Brian Anderson, he's the CEO of Unbound Now. They're a nonprofit that mobilizes communities, including local law enforcement, churches, and professionals all across different industries to identify and respond to human trafficking right in their own city. So let's go to Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson, welcome.
Rich, thank you. Pleasure to be with you tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you. So let's talk about this. I mean, obviously, you do this day in and day out with your work with Unbound Now. But when you look at this case, it's high profile because it's a big rap mogul, you know, Sean P. Diddy Combs. But I'm sure it's not that different from other cases you've seen, or is that me being too presumptuous?
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up there. I mean, trafficking hides in plain sight. And I'm grateful that this is, coming to the surface here, but this is a very complex case. And we've seen, instances where similar complexities within trafficking operations. But thankful this is coming to the light. But this is quite the expansive operation that he allegedly was running, and the trauma that a human goes through within a context like this is unfathomable. And so grateful for the victims who are coming forward to share their stories about what happened, but a very complex case indeed.
Wow. So let's talk about this, I guess, from the macro perspective, and from where you're perched, because I guess you see this a lot more than I do. When we're looking at this, would you say that the problem with trafficking in our country is getting better, or is it getting worse?
Yeah, it depends on the vantage point. And so we've been able to walk with over 1,300 clients so far this year, taking continued steps towards freedom in breaking free from trafficking. And so in the individual cases and where we've got strong relationships with law enforcement, where the communities are coming together to truly make an impact, we are seeing trafficking operations leave the vicinity because they know that the community has a solid response to it. And that they're able to really decrease the time that victims are exploited and even prevent them from being exploited in the first place. However, with prolific access to the dark web and crypto, I mean, the tools of traffickers are widespread and they're sophisticated. And so communities really need to keep pace with it. So I'd say on a whole, trafficking is increasing, keeping pace with technology developments and distributed payments. But where you've got communities that are really leaning in together, we are seeing a decrease in overall trafficking operations.
What do you attribute the decrease to? Is it our great work with law enforcement or something else?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors. So you've got the supply side and you've got the demand side of trafficking. On the demand side, you've got buyers and you've got sellers. And when we've got, court cases like this one here with Sean Combs, traffickers, they recognize that they've got an enemy on the other side. They've got law enforcement that's coming for them, that's setting up defenses, that's setting up investigative networks to, shut down operations. And so trafficking convictions in this space are a strong deterrent to these really sophisticated trafficking operations. And so you do see demand side starting to clamp down there. But on the supply side, where, vulnerable populations are pulled into the grip of traffickers in a variety of ways that happens, getting kids aware of what it looks like to stay safe online, letting them know how to, recognize the signs of traffickers, the grooming of traffickers. And so when we can address it on that side, we can see the supply side of trafficking become more resilient. And then in the middle, you've got exploitation. You've got when victims are actively being trafficked. And as we build the community's awareness of trafficking, as we inform professionals of how to identify it and how to safely report it, we can reduce the period of time when victims are being exploited. And so the whole system, when that's working together, that's when we'll see, continued decrease in trafficking. And we've seen that in the communities when we've been able to operate.
Man, hopefully we can continue that trend. Brian Anderson, I want you to take a moment or so to let everybody that's listening know how they can keep up to speed with the work that you're doing and how they can follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can check us out on unboundnow.org, our website there. We've got 8 domestic locations, 6 of them in Texas and 2 in Louisiana. We also have operations going on overseas, but our website's the best place to track with us there. And really just to get engaged with your communities. Communities across the country are taking an active stance against trafficking. And so if you're not in a community where Unbound Now is operating, there is likely other organizations similar to ours who are leaning into the fight. So checking that out and helping and supporting, getting behind them financially, volunteering where you can, those are excellent ways to lean into the fight.
Outstanding. Well, keep up the great work. I appreciate you being here with us. Folks, Brian Anderson, CEO of Unbound Now. Check them out at unboundnow.org. Brian, thank you, sir. Godspeed to you.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
You bet. And folks, we continue our conversation with you all, the American people, your calls, and a lot more coming up straight ahead. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
We've got to get the Secret Service into a position where its protectees can be shielded in the most maximum way possible from harm.
That is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries talking about the vote today, that big vote I was telling you about. That was 405-0, unanimous vote on getting Trump and Harris the same coverage that Biden currently has. And I think that's a good idea, personally. But again, we've never had it before, right? And we've been able to succeed. And I don't think the reason that we succeeded in the past was because of anything other than people were doing their jobs correctly. And I think what's happening now with Trump is that they're not doing their job correctly. So they want to make it look like, look, we're not out to get Trump. We're not out to get the guy. That's why we're going to give him the same protection we give Biden. Great. I would say give him more, because nobody's trying to kill Biden right now the way they're trying to kill Trump. Nobody's trying to kill Harris the way they're trying to kill Trump. Right? At least it seems that way to me. When was the last time you saw Harris losing a little piece of her ear hitting the ground, hit the deck, right? Now we see Biden hit the deck all the time. He falls up the stairs, things like that, but none of them have to do with assassination attempts. Now, just like you heard Hakeem Jeffries, you got House Speaker Mike Johnson also weighing in on this. Listen to this.
We have got to get down to the bottom of this. We got to ensure that this doesn't happen again. If they need additional funding, Congress will supply that. But we're told it's a manpower problem. Even if we gave them $3 billion tomorrow, it's impossible to hire 2,500 new Secret Service agents in a short period of time. We're less than 50 days out from the election. We need Donald Trump to be protected, as any candidate of his stature would be.
I think Mike Johnson's onto something here. And something that one of our guests on Monday night, we had retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, right, who worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency and whatnot. He said something. He said, Trump could easily get a Delta Force that could help him. I love that idea. Delta Force sounds great. SEAL team, whatever. Sounds great. Again, I understand that they don't necessarily work in that function, in that capacity, but I'm pretty sure you can make things happen. You could say, hey, look, we need you for this. And there's also the Federal Protective Service for perimeter work. I don't see why you couldn't get the guys that are intimately involved in Secret Service work to do the Secret Service work, but get the FPS guys, the Federal Protective Service, get them on the perimeter work. Again, this is me being a layman saying these things, but makes sense to me. Right? If you need extra hands, give them the light work and give the guys that know what they're doing, whatever. Also, snipers, right? I'm sure snipers come in many different varieties, but get the most elite snipers you can that are available and say, hey, look, instead of doing this in, Kandahar, you're going to do it wherever Trump is at, and it's counter sniper work. Make sure that nobody's trying to blow his head off. Again, this is me thinking outside the box. Sometimes I think that's what you need. But I also realize that when you don't know what you don't know, you say things like I just said. So I don't mind being corrected if anything I said was off my rocker here. But I think we should be able to put something together to keep Trump safe. Because, in effect, it almost seems like you've got the left saying, well, Trump is getting shot at because we don't like him, right? Because the things he says, he's evil, he's bad, he's this and he's that. And now we have politicians saying, well, we want to make sure that we can get them with the help they need, but we don't know if we have that help available. Well, find it, sir. Make it available. I mean, come on. I'm pretty sure if Trump got on Twitter and said, hey, I'm looking for a few good snipers, he'd have a line, down the block. Because there's a lot of people that want to help the president. Now, I realize you can't just get people off the street, but I'm making a point here. Now, all of this comes on the heels of the Secret Service guy, Ronald Rowe, admitting failure. He gave a press conference as well, and he says, we failed. Listen to this.
This was a failure on the part of the United States Secret Service. It's important that we hold ourselves accountable for the failures of July 13th, and that we use the lessons learned to make sure that we do not have another failure like this again. The findings of the Mission Assurance Review have prompted the Secret Service to move into the accountability phase of this process. The Office of Professional Responsibility and the Office of Integrity are reviewing the findings. And as a result of these failures, what has become clear to me is we need a shift in paradigm in how we conduct our protective operations. As was demonstrated on Sunday in West Palm Beach, the threat level is evolving and requires this paradigm shift.
Mr. Paradigm Shift over here. I listened to this cut earlier, a couple hours ago. I was guest hosting the Mark Levin show earlier. And my initial reaction to this was that this guy was there wringing his hands, grinding his teeth, really just pouting. He was so upset that he had to take accountability, that he had to take it on the chin here for not doing his job. Now, of course, they're going to try and spin it and be like, of course we did our job. We saw the barrel of the gun. Our agent shot those guys and whatever. Okay, super. I think ideally you get the gold star for doing your job when the guy doesn't come to shoot Trump, when the guy is not able to set up and sit in the bushes for, I believe they said 12 hours. Right, that's when you really get the pat on the back. Thwarting the guy who's in the bushes already with an AK-47 is likely not going to get you a ton of accolades. But who am I? Maybe I'm just too critical. Bottom line here is, the reason I think that they're all upset here is because they look incompetent. And this makes Biden and Harris look like, yep, we're turning a blind eye to let these people get Trump. And maybe Harris and Biden don't know. You know, sometimes in these government organizations, people do crazy things and they try to insulate the candidate or the executive so that they have plausible deniability. And they just try and, you know, hey, maybe this so-and-so would appreciate it if we did X, Y, and Z. I'm telling you now, this is not a good look. It's not making the country look good. It doesn't make Harris look good. And it doesn't make Biden look good. And it's dangerous. Anyway, I want to get to your calls on this. We will do that momentarily. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with your phone calls, 833-482-5337-833-4-Valdez. I want to go to Caesar calling us from Dallas, Texas, streaming the show on richvaldez.com. Go right ahead, Caesar.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for taking my call. I want to speak about security, but I had a quick comment that I think the media is really treating Mark Robinson very, very viciously and mean and unfair.
Yeah, well, we're not on. I don't want to confuse all the people listening. Let's stay focused on Trump and the assassination attempt.
Oh, well, you don't want to talk about that?
No, I don't.
Mark Robinson? Why not?
No, you see, I knew you were a troll. I could smell it through the microphone. You want to troll Mark Robinson and hijack my show, and I'm here, spent, 40 minutes building up on this Trump assassination stuff, playing clip after clip after clip to get to you, to waste my time and the time of all the listeners because you like the sound of your own voice more than I like the sound of mine. And we did Mark Robinson yesterday. You had your shot if you wanted to sound off on that. So do you actually have something to say about the Trump assassination attempt, or is that just your feeble attempt at trolling?
Do you spend time on Nude Africa with Mark?
Well, I invented nudeafrica.com. It's a great source of income for me. You are a special kind of stupid, sir. I wish you the best in life, and I hope that on a Friday night at 10 o'clock at night, you have something better to do than call me and try and hijack my show with your stupidities. Good luck, sir. Anyway, that was fun. That's Caesar in Dallas, Texas, if that is his name. And this is what people are doing with life. They want to call here and talk about Mark Robinson, who's flat out denied this stuff, right? He just flat out denied it. Why would I want to talk about that? For those who don't know the rules, first hour of the show, second hour of the show, I take calls on what our guests are talking about and what we're discussing. Third hour of the show, it's open phones across America. Whatever you want to talk about. So if Caesar wants to call back in hour number 3, happy to talk with you and rip you to shreds then. All right, folks, we're coming right back. Hour number 2 is coming up, and we're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about how Trump got endorsed by Nicky Jam, and then he kind of walked it back, I guess, taking down a photo. He didn't officially take back the endorsement, but after he was put under pressure, and support for Trump amongst Hispanics continues to grow. All of that and more coming up. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday night. We're live and we're national. It's hour number 2 of our program. And the phone number, if you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation, give us a call, 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And the House passed a unanimous bill to boost Secret Service protection for presidential candidates to match that of the sitting president. We talked about that before, and we'll touch on it again. We also have the leader of Hezbollah, the terrorist group. He says that attacking people's crotches with pagers is a declaration of war. You also got the State Department stonewalling Republicans on a censorship probe and doing it in a very snide manner. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And let me see. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is defending spending $7.5 billion on guess how many electric vehicle charging stations? 8. Not 800, not 8 dozen, not 8,000, but 8. 8 EV charging stations for $7.5 billion. Great job, Pete Buttigieg. Now, something else I want to talk about, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier if you caught me on the Levin Show, was what David Axelrod said, the senior advisor to Barack Obama when he was in the White House. Now, Axelrod made some very, in my opinion, crass statements. Here's what he said. Let me see. Well, you listen to it. You tell me what you think.
I mean, I was horrified. Everybody should be by what happened in Butler, about the events of last Sunday. And I know, but we have to be honest about this. If you encourage and everybody, I know that Trump folks will say, well, you can't, blame the victim here.
You can't blame the victim, he says. Hold on a second. So it's lovely the way these guys start. It's atrocious to see what happened at the events in Butler, Pennsylvania. Well, they shot Trump's ear, trying to get him in the head. It's terrible to see the events of last Sunday. They were pointing a gun at him, an AK-47. The guy was in the bushes for a dozen hours, waiting for the moment to take the shot, and didn't get a chance. And then he runs away and he gets caught by the cops. Right? He said, that's terrible. And then comes the comma but. But you can't sow the seeds of violence and then play the victim, is what he says. Go ahead, play the tape.
Is that his rhetoric and his appeal has been tinged with permission structure for people. When you tell people that if we lose, you won't have a country anymore.
Hold on a second, David Axelrod. It's given people permission structure. Let's be very clear here. Permission structure for what? Are you saying because Trump said something that somehow people now have permission, or the structure was given for permission to assassinate this man? Are you kidding me? Let's let him finish to make sure we get this clearly.
And we saw it on January 6th. It was his words that precipitated a violent insurrection at the Capitol. So you can't sow the seeds of violence and then play the victim.
Okay. Well, I tend to disagree, right? I think you have free speech in America. You say what you want to say, and you never have the expectation that you're going to be murdered. The mere idea that we are normalizing the murder of anyone, let alone Trump, but the murder of a former president who's running for president because of something that he said. It's not like he's saying, let's sacrifice small children at the altar. No, it's not what he's saying. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Maybe I'm off my rocker. We need a voice of reason here. That's why we've got the president of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition. He's also the pastor at the Gathering Place. Reverend Gabriel Salguero, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So I'm upset with David Axelrod and those on the political left because it seems like they're almost normalizing, along with their friends in the media, normalizing the idea of having disagreement and making it okay to say, well, you know, se lo está buscando. Trump is looking to get himself shot. I can't agree with that. You are a Christian pastor. I would like for you to share with us, and of course, the president of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition, share with us your thoughts on the political division that is, according to some, causing this.
Well, I think that the events of political violence, the attempts on former President Trump's life, the shootings we had at a baseball game of congressmen and women that were practicing baseball, the shooting of Rep. Gifford. I think that for me as a pastor, violence is never a way to solve political differences or ideological differences. And so our coalition and several hundred other evangelicals have called for civility. You can disagree without being violent, without resulting to violence, or without inciting violence. And so for me as a pastor, what I tell people is, this is America, this is democracy, you're free to express your ideas, but do it courteously and never make an apologetic for violence under any circumstance, and much less political violence of people whom you may disagree with.
You know, Reverend Gabriel Salguero, I got a text this morning from a friend of mine, and he's a retired Marine, and he tells me that he has a friend that's in ministry, he's a preacher somewhere in the South. And he says the guy tells him that they get into a theological debate over the Bible saying that it's okay to kill enemies of God. And therefore, if Trump is an enemy of God, then it is their duty to try and kill him. And I'm thinking, somebody's got to be making this up. This is absolute crazy town, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that type of rhetoric?
My thoughts are that I think that people are being discipled wrong. We have a discipleship and catechesis problem. Actually, Jesus, who we follow as Christians, told us we are supposed to bless those who persecute us and love our enemies. And so on the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5, we actually have the exact opposite mandate and commandment from Jesus. And I think that this is the hard part of Christianity. Some people call them the difficult sayings of Jesus, to love your enemies, to bless those who persecute you. And I think that I don't know where, I don't know when, I don't know how people have been hearing a teaching about the Gospels that has nothing to do with what Jesus taught us, how to engage people and how to respect people's right to their opinion.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, what comes to mind for me, you're talking about Matthew 5, I'm thinking of the Beatitudes, and blessed are the peacemakers. And that to me is clearly the message that Jesus brought, so much so that he gave himself, right? He didn't fight. He went as a sacrificial lamb in more ways than one. So I think when we hear these things, to me, they run contrary to just what is good and right and holy and noble and just normal. But here we are, and I guess from your perspective, other than prayer, and I'm sure there's a lot of that we all need. What's the solution to reaching people that espouse these crazy ideas, that think Trump's looking for this?
Look, I think that political violence on any side should be denounced, and I think you're quite right. I'm a pastor, so I think prayer is essential. But in addition to prayer, I think we have to teach again the Beatitudes and teach again the teachings of Jesus. Like I said, several hundred pastors have signed this confession of evangelical conviction that says, hey, in a democracy, people are free to state their perspectives and their opinions, whether they're Democrats or Republicans or independents. What they're not free to do is to try to exact some level of political violence because somebody disagrees with them. And I think that for me as a pastor, for religious leaders, for politicians, for pundits, we have to call people to as Lincoln President Lincoln said, the higher noble angels of our spirit. And I think we need to model that. We wouldn't allow kids to bully other kids. We wouldn't allow a stronger person to bully a weaker person. And so what we seek to model for our children, we need to model both in our political discourse and in our punditry.
Sounds good to me. I try my best there, although I fall short. And that's scriptural, right? But I shouldn't hold on to that. I should strive to do better.
Rich, here's the issue. Look, I think that I am concerned about that we say things that, instead of unite us, more deeply divide us. I think that we can disagree as a nation without being disagreeable. I think we can speak with conviction while speaking with civility. I don't think that conviction and civility are mutually exclusive. And certainly, Jesus taught with conviction, but he also called us to peacemaking and to reconciliation and to being kind. I think we need to talk about kindness, not just in not doing violence, but in our speech and in our rhetoric. We should not demonize people, no matter what side of the political aisle they're from, the left, the right, the center. And look, this is hard for me to say. I'm a pastor of a church. I'm not a politician. I'm not a pundit. I'm a pastor, and I'm an evangelical leader. And in our church, we have all kinds of people. And I say to them, look, you need to vote on your biblical values and on your convictions. But what you can't do is demonize people, because that's inconsistent with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Well said. Reverend Gabriel Salguero, president of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition. And Pastor, for people who want to learn more about the work that you're doing, where do they go?
Well, you can follow me on my social media at Pastors, plural, Salguero. You'll see a picture of me and my beautiful wife, or you can follow us at NALEC, NALEC.org, and just follow any of those pages where you'll hear about our work with people who need to hear the gospel and a message of reconciliation.
Outstanding. Thank you for being here, sir. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. God bless you.
God bless you, Rich. Have a good evening.
You bet. Folks, we're going to get to your thoughts on this. I want you to weigh in on this. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So glad to be on your show, Rich. It's just an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I wanted to know if you think it's time for Democrats to stop calling Trump a threat to democracy.
No, fact of the matter is that he is a threat to democracy.
I wanted to know if you think it's time for Democrats to tone down the rhetoric.
Well, I think it's important for all of us to tone down the rhetoric. Let's make this an election about policy.
Do you think it's time for Democrats to stop calling Trump a threat to democracy?
No, I think we should be clear that he is a threat to democracy.
Do you think that the rhetoric, though, needs to be toned down?
I think his rhetoric should be toned down, absolutely.
Do you think it's time for Democrats to stop calling Trump a threat to democracy?
Listen, these are the facts. He is a threat, period, point blank.
Okay, so that is Hillary Vaughn interviewing Hank Johnson, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, and Jasmine Crockett, members of Congress. And that was their response to this. And I guess the question is, why is it that we have an entire political party that thinks it's okay to demonize Trump, and then when people try to kill Trump after he's been demonized, they think that it's not their fault, it's Trump's fault. He's not demonizing himself. Let's go to Debbie in Akron, Ohio, WNIR. Debbie, go right ahead.
Oh, thank you, Rich. I'm actually from Canton, but, you know.
Okay, it says
I wouldn't
Akron
live
on my
up there
screen.
in Akron. There's
Sure.
too much gunfire going up there. I wouldn't live there, for God's sakes. But, hey, I just wanted, my daughter, and I have grandchildren, going to school every day, and my daughter said the other day when Trump got shot and J.D. Vance said, you know what, their kids got shot in Georgia, and he goes, it's just a fact of life. And I guess I would tell Trump that. It's a fact of life.
Well, it
Because
certainly
if
is.
you're
I don't
not
think
gonna
anybody's arguing that it's a fact of life that they tried to kill him. It's clearly, it's on video, right? The facts are all present. I think that the debate is over, should the Democrats continue to say the things they're saying about him, which is causing people to want to kill him. Whereas I think Trump is beating them up on different things, policy issues. You know, he's talking about inflation and immigration and how bad they are at doing their job. And they're talking about how bad he is as a human being, as if, you know, if he wins, the country is destroyed. Whereas he says the country's being destroyed under their policies. So it's a real, I guess, a mismatch on rhetoric. He's attacking them, in my opinion, on the rhetoric and on the merits. And they're attacking him on his existence.
Whatever. They're attacking our children for nothing at all. All right? It's a fact
they?
of life. Live with it. Yeah.
Who's attacking our children? Okay, Debbie. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Let's go to Frank in Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Go right ahead, Frank.
I agree with the Reverend Salguero, but civility started decaying in the United States when Nancy Pelosi tore up Donald Trump's speech at the State of the Union. And I call upon you now to repudiate your friend and mentor, Mark Levin, for calling Chris Van Hollen, the senator from Maryland, a bastard. A bastard is a term of abuse. It doesn't give information. It just attacks and throws mud on people. And if charity begins at home, I think you ought to institute your policies at home and say, Mark Levin, you are out of line. You are a brilliant man, but you're using the wrong tactics.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say to that is I haven't heard it. I can't comment on something I haven't heard. But Mark is pretty good at choosing words. So I don't know Mr. Van Hollen's home situation. And my thinking would be that Mark would likely use that term in its most accurate sense, like someone who has no father, or at least rhetorically speaking. So, I don't know. I can't speak to that. But I do appreciate your comment with respect to Nancy Pelosi and the end of civility. And I think, honestly, civility's been eroding for a long time. And I guess the real root cause of that, Frank, I don't know. I would say I think we have institutionalized or inculcated into our culture things that we ought not, whether it's music, things that I like, reggaeton and things like that. Some of that may not be as helpful as we'd like it to be, even though it's entertaining. Frank, thank you for the call. Folks, we come back with the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
And two amazing Puerto Rican musical legends. They're legends, Justin Quiles and Anuel.
I'm from Puerto Rico. We are a big part of United States. We really depend on the United States. Since Trump hasn't been around, Puerto Rico's, it's not a secret. We've been going through a lot as a country. And Biden always promised. A lot of politicians always promise through the years, but all of us know, the world knows, everybody's experienced it. The best president the world has seen, this country has ever seen. His name is President Trump.
A lot of Latinos, we stand strong next to President Trump. A lot of Latinos, we love you as well. Thank you for sharing with us back there how important building back Puerto Rico is. And not only building up Puerto Rico, but let's make America great again. Let's go.
All right, that was a couple of weeks ago. I played it when it happened. That was the reggaeton superstars Anuel AA and Justin Quiles endorsing President Trump. And in the subsequent days, Anuel went there with his wife and spent the day at Mar-a-Lago with President Trump and put it on Instagram and all over the social media, and it was really interesting. And I saw a clip of that yesterday, and it was posted by the Lexit Movement. And we've had the founder of the Lexit Movement on before, Jesse Holguin. You might remember he came on and told us about how he was a gangbanger in L.A. and was shot and subsequently became paralyzed as a result. And he's in a wheelchair today and now works on evangelism and activism in a very pro-Trump manner. And Jesse Holguin is back with us because I want to talk about that specific topic of Hispanic support for Trump. Jesse Holguin, welcome back.
How you doing, my brother? It's good to hear from you again.
Amen, brother. Doing great. Thank you. And, you know, I'm looking at this piece in the New York Post, and it says, Trump pollster eyeing historic Hispanic support as swing states decide. And the pollster is Tony Fabrizio, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month by outlining how his candidate is set to win the presidential election through outreach with the Latino community. And I figured as the largest conservative Hispanic political organization that I see, at least the fastest growing for sure, all over the social media and in the grassroots, I figured you would have a good sense of this type of support. Are you seeing an increase in support for President Trump?
Definitely, brother. It's like night and day, especially from 6 years ago or from when I first started. I'm sure you've seen it as well, but it's night and day. I'm trying to think right now. Most of the Latinos that I even know, they all support Trump, or they, at least even if they're not fully on board with Trump, they don't like Kamala and they didn't like Biden at all because, you know, they feel it. Our people, they're feeling it in their wallets right now. So inflation has a lot to do with it. A lot of people are angry, and like I said, it's way different from the past. Before, you know, because before the left had ingrained in so bad that Trump don't like Latinos and he wants the wall and he wants to deport you all. They had ingrained that. Them and the fake media had it ingrained in social. It was a tough sell at the beginning, as you know, a few years back. It was hard to overcome that, but it definitely has. We've done it. Which is all the work we've been doing, and you and others. It's changed a lot, brother, just how you've seen these reggaeton stars. First of all, I just want to congratulate them on their bravery, that was bold and brave of them to do that. That's one. And then they just want, I know they feel it like the rest of, like a lot of other these Latinos that we need a change. We need Trump back.
Yeah, Jesse Holguin, again, founder of the Lexit Movement, Latinos Exiting the Democrat Party. And Jesse, you know, what I find interesting is you're right. You said it was a tough sell, and that's kind of what it was like. It was like, you know, people would ask, hey, you're with Trump. Why? Why are you with Trump? Why would you support Trump? You're Hispanic. And you had to kind of start backselling here and say, well, I think, you know, this and no, but he's a this. And I feel like now, maybe you agree, maybe not, but I feel like now there are more people that are way more media savvy than they used to be. And they realize that when they see things or hear things, even like this most recent debate, I think a lot of people walked away from that saying, you know what, this thing is kind of rigged.
Yeah, they see the bias. They see the bias, especially because even I didn't know, bro. Even I'm telling you, like 7 years ago or whatever, I didn't even know CNN and all that was out there. That's why when they first came out with, oh, Trump called you guys racist and all, they just cut that little clip. But that's why when you go back and you hear the entire interview, you're like, what? I agree with Trump. He wasn't saying all Latinos. He was saying that there is rapists that come in. And then all of us, especially because I'm over here in L.A., we're close to the border, and I'm Mexican. So he's right. I'm like, he's right. There is all type of rapes and things going across the border. He was right. But like I said, people know we're awake now. Like, they're exposed. They lost all credibility. Like, CNN, fake news CNN, and MSNBC. Them, everybody knows that they're just all in cahoots with the Democrats, so they have no credibility. So now it isn't so impactful like it used to be in the past, and then because now everybody, like you said, is aware. Then there's a couple of little other outlets, and there's a lot of influencers and like us, grassroots and all that. So things have definitely changed. But plus just seeing these policies with the Democrats, like I know over here in California, is real big with parents because they're trying to come against parental rights and they're grooming the kids at school and pushing these kids out of school. And you know us Latinos, we're family oriented. We love God and we don't mess with our families, don't mess with our kids. So that's another thing that has made a lot of Latinos that our eyes have woken up. So now they're seeing what we've been saying for the last couple of years about them, brother.
Yeah, 100%, Jesse. And you're preaching to the choir, but it's refreshing to hear it because I realize that you're right. The issues that ultimately get people motivated are what they see, what they live, what they experience. And when if anybody's listening right now and you're not following the social media account at Lexit Movement, you should. LEXIT Movement. They post a tremendous amount of content. It's really good stuff, very eye-opening stuff. But I remember seeing some stuff that you posted of parents that had gathered together and from all walks of life to protest certain new regulations that were saying they wouldn't have a say if their child were transitioning, and the state of California was keeping parents out of the loop, and they just passed that law, I think. But when the fight was going on, people were, a lot of Hispanics were like, I'm not about this. Like, there's no scenario where this is okay that you get to raise my kid and I don't. Are you sensing more people jumping on that bandwagon?
Yes, like I said, because don't mess with parents. I tell you that has done a lot to wake people up. Even like you said, at those rallies, I even used to be right there, and it would be a trip because you would look on our side, and it would be like all parents, like you said, all nationalities, Latinos, Armenians, like all parents, and then you look on the other side, and it would be just like all gays and pink-haired liberals and all that, and then most of them didn't even live in that city or whatever, so they were just activists that would come over there trying to push that agenda, and all of us would be like, you guys don't even have no kids, eh? And you guys are over here trying to push this agenda on us, and we're all over here parents in that, and look, you guys are just ridiculous. And they even were trying to pass it where they could take the child up to 12 years old if the parent didn't let the child be transgender or whatever, that they could take your child. Like, so that woke up a lot of people. Like, what do you mean you could take our child? Eh? That's total ridiculous. But it's just all the antics from the left. But even, brother, like I said, you pick a subject and they're terrible. Like even immigration, like people are tired of this open borders. Cause even where I live, because I live in LA, I live right by Dodger
And you've always
Stadium.
dealt with that in that section of the country.
Yeah, so right here where I'm at, I'm right by Dodger Stadium, right? Down my street, there's a whole lot of illegals and stuff, right? So I talk to them and stuff like that. And even them, brother, but they're illegals, but they've been here 10 years. They're working and they have families and things like that, but they're illegal. But even them don't like what's going on at the border. And they're like, no, because they know. Because they want to make a
don't like the illegals.
Yeah, but they don't want, because they know if it keeps coming, open borders flooding in like that, we can't sustain it, that we won't last, and like that. Plus, they're moving in our cities, they're taking our jobs, going to our schools, taking the supplies, even at the hospitals, schools, all that kind of stuff.
Jesse Holguin, I want you to hold on 1 second. We're going to take a quick pause right here. We're going to come right back with Jesse Holguin, founder of the Lexit Movement.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Jesse Holguin. He's founder of the Lexit movement, which is Latinos exiting the Democrat Party. And Jesse, something you brought up before, I want you to hear this clip of audio. I was on Instagram and I saw this crazy video from a lady named Dr. Lindsay Doe. She's a sex therapist, and she was talking about how we should normalize people that are pedophiles. Listen to this.
It's short for virtuous pedophiles. Not virtuous as in they're better than everyone because they're attracted to children, but virtuous like having moral standards and a sexual orientation that they have no control over, like the rest of us. Before you get all worked up, I'm talking about pedophilia, not child molestation or rape. Pedophilia is the sexual attraction to children. It's a paraphilia. There's a link to more information about it in the description, videos I've made in the past explaining the kind of human diversity and development. Molestation and rape are different. These are abusive actions that often have nothing to do with attraction. Many child abusers are actually sexually attracted to adults, but they act out on children. Meaning you probably don't object to pedophiles because you're compassionate and rational, but you may loathe child molesters and rapists because they violate people. I personally try not to judge either.
She personally tries not to judge either. She doesn't judge child rapists. What is going on here with this Dr. Lindsay Doe, Jesse Holguin?
I bet you she judges Christians, though. You know what I mean? Bet you she has a lot to say about Christians, but it's just disgusting, bro. It's just totally disgusting. I've seen several videos like that. I've seen several instances of. That's why I've been calling it for years. I've been saying it that's next on the leftist agenda is going to be pedophilia. That just. It brings me, like I just did a video today on it. I don't know if you've seen, but 153 Democrats just voted on a bill against a bill that would deport illegals that were here for sex crimes. So we're like, what the heck? How could you possibly be against deporting sex offenders and rapists and that? Like, I mean, what was your possible justification for that? That's totally ridiculous. That should show anybody beyond a shadow of a doubt where and what kind of party they are. But it seems like that over and over again. It's always that. Like, why are the Democrats always trying to protect pedophiles, perverts, criminals? Why are they always trying to protect these people? It's like, it shows you, it's very telling.
Yeah, it really is. And Jesse Holguin, I remember the last time you came on with us, you shared a little bit about your story, but for people who are hearing you for the first time, I introduced you as a former gangbanger in L.A. that was shot and is paralyzed, and today you are in a wheelchair. But tell us a little bit about how that went down. What were you doing? How did you end up in a situation where you got shot?
I was up to no good. I was like a ex-gang leader. I did years in the youth authority and in prison for shootings. I was real crazy. And then to make a long story short, I was kicking down some guy's door. I was going to kick down the guy's door and go up in his house and get him. And as I was kicking down the door, he shot me, boom. And that's how I got paralyzed. But as my story goes on, when I was choking on my own blood, because the bullet went through my lung, and it went into my spine. So I was choking on my own blood, but so they had to airlift me in a helicopter. And then when I was flying in the helicopter, I just started calling out to Jesus, and he saved me and changed my life. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I started going into juvenile halls and doing Bible studies with all the kids, and then I started going into prisons, and I was a chaplain, and just the Lord just was been using my life, because like I tell everybody, I was supposed to die, I feel that day, but I feel that the Lord left me for a reason. And so now every day I'm just a soldier for Christ, and then trying to save America from coming to these socialist, Marxist, And I'm just trying to wake up our people, because Latinos have been manipulated for far too long. And because we're conservative, Latinos are conservative. We're mostly conservative. We love God. We love our family, like I'm saying. But they've been using like the past and feelings and race to manipulate our people for so long. We're just telling them, nah, vote on your godly moral values, vote on the issues, vote on policies, do your research and do your homework.
Outstanding. Jesse Holguin, let everybody know how they can follow you and what the website is.
Just go to pretty much all the sites. We're under Lexit Movement. Our biggest one we do our most damage is on Instagram. It's under Lexit Movement. But the only one is on Facebook. We're under Real Lexit on Facebook. It's Real Lexit. But all the rest, TikTok, everywhere else, it's Lexit Movement. And that's how you could. And then we have our website, wearelexit.com.
Outstanding. Jesse Holguin, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, brother. I really appreciate the work that you do, and thanks for staying up late and chatting with us.
Thanks, brother. Much love, brother. Be safe out there.
You bet. God bless. You too. All right, folks, we continue with your phone calls and more, wrapping up this hour, and then we're kicking off hour number 3 with open phones across America. Now, if the funny guy from Texas wants to call and talk about nude Africa, my invention, by the way, just kidding, happy to talk about that and everything else. Give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, familia, welcome back. And we continue our conversation, 833-482-5337. Let us go to Eduardo in Tampa, Florida, streaming the show on richvaldez.com. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Rich, thank you for taking my call. You know, after what happened with the comments by President Trump on Springfield, now they're trying to discredit the fact that there's an intrusion of Venezuela gang members into this country. It's pretty ridiculous, because I'm listening to some other station and they're talking about, oh, well, that's just some photo on August 18th of some gang members in that Aurora, Colorado apartment. But what are they talking about? It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I just saw an article yesterday. Let me see if I can find it real quick while I'm talking to you. Here it is. This is 2 days old, this article, in the Epic Times. Aurora police offers help to apartment complexes amidst the Venezuelan gang issue. The police department announced the arrest of 10 known Tren de Aragua gang suspects linked to violent crimes in the area and throughout Denver. So, yeah. There you go. I mean, the police know what's going on. They're obviously involved. Jason Batchelor, the city manager in Aurora, Colorado, has assigned off-duty officers to work at 2 different properties owned by a company called CBZ Management that have been pretty much taken over by these people. So the city's aware, the police are involved. For the media to turn a blind eye is nothing more than straight up lying. They're fakes, they're phonies, and they're frauds. Eduardo, thank you, sir. I appreciate your call. Great comment. And we continue with the rest of your calls and more straight ahead. It's open phones across America on this Friday night. Hour number 3, live and national, coming up right now. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the third hour of the program. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, feel free to give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And President Trump shared a song today on Truth Social. It hit #1 on the charts. The song is called Fighter. We interviewed the singer Jon Kahn earlier today, and he was telling us about how he came up with the song and called it Fighter even before Trump yelled, fight, fight, fight. So that was pretty cool. It was a fun story. And we've had a lot of conversations tonight. We talked about the support amongst Hispanics for Trump growing on the grassroots level. We've also talked about just so much of what's going on, the moral failure, the moral decay that we're witnessing in the media, in our government, in our national discourse with respect to the acceptance of violence that's politically motivated and seemingly, I don't know, making it okay, right? Justifying this violence because we don't like a particular candidate, right? You've never heard me say, I really hope somebody shoots, the person I disagree with. I would never say such a thing. I don't think anybody should. So it was a really interesting series of conversations tonight. And I want to get your thoughts on all of it. Again, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Now, before we get to that stuff, there is a couple of things I wanted to cover here. Some audio that I had here that I wanted to share with you. Let me see here. This is it. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a clip from Representative Nancy Mace from South Carolina, and she's a real firecracker, by the way. And she, in the clip, she says something, and then the person on the TV show, I think it was CNN, and one of the panelists there, goes ahead and says, if mispronouncing her name is a white supremacist thing to do. Right? I don't know if you remember that. And then I made jokes about that for a while. So oh, do you? Is it ready to go? All right. So I'll play you that clip before we play you the update on that. Listen to this.
And you disrespect Kamala Harris by saying you will call her whatever you want. I know you don't intend it to be that way. That's the history and legacy of white disregard for the humanity of black people.
Oh, so now you're calling me racist.
I didn't say. I just said you weren't a racist.
That is complete.
No, you don't have to intend racism to accomplish
you are intending that I am
your disrespect
racist,
of Kamala Harris is part and parcel of a tradition of disrespect.
It's offensive,
Congresswoman. Why can't you just?
All right, you get the point. All this crosstalk here, they're going back and forth and blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out the same person that was admonishing the Congresswoman and that whole crew of people that was admonishing her, well, one of them decided to make an advance, it seems. Listen to this.
I would like to also enter into the record a screenshot of a text message I received from the esteemed professor from Vanderbilt, Michael Eric Dyson, after my CNN interview, begged me for photos. In this text, he says, after calling me racist on CNN, shh, don't tell anybody, we look good together, and sent me a kissy emoji.
Without objection.
Then the guy says I'm gorgeous in all these photos. I don't think he's that bent out of shape on how anyone pronounces Kamala. And if we're going to have that standard, you got to hold it to both sides, not just one or the other.
Well, there you go. So Nancy Mace says that Mr. Michael Eric Dyson, if that is his name, I hope I said it right, sending her text messages and whatever. I've been on TV shows with plenty of people, and I never get their text message numbers. I never get their cell phone number. I don't even have the host number most of the time. I just talk to the producer, and that's it. So I'm not that high up on the food chain, but I guess it's interesting that Mr. Dyson and the Congresswoman have exchanged numbers. And I'm not insinuating anything, but either of them is welcome to come on the show and tell us more about what's going on here. I'd love to hear more, right? The one caller who called me Wachinchero. That's right. I am the political gossip guy. I'd love to hear more. Anyway, we continue our conversation here. So that's what's going on with Nancy Mace. And there was an AOC clip that I wanted to play for you. In addition to her calling for $30 billion in a social housing program to reclaim housing as a basic human right, just like, like her communist grandpa, Bernie Sanders, saying that healthcare is a right. Now, housing is a right. Right? They're having a good time with that. But in addition to that, what she said this week, she also went on to call for the United States, or called into question, right, invoking the United States Department of Defense guidelines when talking about this conflict between Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, and whomever it is that's blowing up Hezbollah, which to date, we don't know if it's Israel or not, but most suspicion is that it was Israel, and they have not claimed any responsibility for that. But she went on to go on, just on and on and on, droning on about how, according to the Department of Defense guidelines, yada, 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 we can't use booby traps. Meanwhile, my thinking was, it wasn't the Department of Defense that did this, so what's the point? Anyway, we move on from that. We talked about David Axelrod and his quote here, that you can't sow the seeds of violence and then play the victim. And I thought this was particularly crass because it's not like Trump is, decrying victimhood. I haven't seen that. If anything, I just see him blaming them, saying, they keep saying this and they keep saying that, and they won't stop until somebody is literally going to kill them. And they've tried twice. Not good. And I think that's totally appropriate and fair for him to call out. But somehow the media thinks that it's his fault, right? I mean, really. So is it an appropriate response when we hear things we don't like, bigoted things, hate speech, whatever it is they're saying that he's done? And I don't think he's done those things, but they're saying that's what he's done. That's the appropriate response now, is kill him, and that's okay because they're looking for it? Now, I think it's a different story if you're not running for president and you're not a former president. If you're a criminal in the street and you're trying to rob people, yeah, that's going to get you killed. You're going to pull up to the wrong person that's packing heat, and they're going to let you have it. Trump isn't robbing people in the streets. Trump is running for president, and he actually was president. These are two different things here. You can't compare apples to oranges in this situation. And I just think it's incredible that they're trying to justify the murder of Donald Trump. It just blows me away. Anyway, I want to get a take from you guys on what's going on this evening. Let's check in with our good friend Doc, an old listener of mine from the Philly days. Doc in Wilmington, Delaware on WDEL. Welcome, sir.
Yes, we go back to when you subbed on WPHT, 12:10 a.m., the big talker, way a long time ago in this area. I listened to you then. I said on the radio to you at that time, and you were semi-flabbergasted. I said you would be the likely successor, Jim Bohannon. You didn't have anything to say. You're almost. I caught you unawares. That's job one. Job two.
Off my guard.
Professor Douglas Brinkley of Tulane University, a key Watergate scholar. This is one of his books on Watergate tapes. Either the John Eloquent or Bob Haldeman. I forget which. Please forgive me, and your listeners. President Nixon said in that quote, "If I get 80% of the white vote, 20% of the Latino vote, 20% of the black vote, the Democratic Party will cease to exist." That's what President Trump has to do now. He doesn't have to. He doesn't just go for the MAGA nation. He's got to go out for the suburbanite soccer moms. He's got to have the Latino vote in this country and the black vote. And I'll give you a figure off of all the websites, including CNN. 18 to 35-year-old black males in this country are overwhelmingly for President Trump. Rich, I think President Trump can do it this time. He can do it in a big way, and I think he'll have coattails. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. Listen, this reminds me again of 2016. And look, I took the bait in 2016. I was on board with Trump. I wanted Trump to win. My friend, I won't use his name because he still works in the federal government, but he's a big shot in the federal government. And he calls me and he's like, "Hey, are you going to Trump Tower? Let's go." And I was not to Trump Tower, to the Hilton in Manhattan, to Trump's victory party. And I said, "No, man, I'm going to stay home. I'm watching this stuff on the news." And I was like, honestly, I don't know how it's going to go. And I take this stuff, I laugh about everything on the air, but in real life, I get upset about these things. And I knew I was going to be in a bad mood, should things not go the way I wanted. And watching the media, I scan MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, and then I jump to, Fox. And I go in that direction, and Newsmax. And I just go round and round and round. And I remember him saying, come on, it'll be a good time. I was like, nah, you know what, I'm going to. And it was like around this time, or maybe a little later. It was around 1 o'clock, 1:15 in the morning. And I was watching this stuff. And when I saw a guy named Cenk Uygur, right? Cenk Uygur, he was on NBC or MSNBC that night with the rest of the panel that they had there. And their faces, the incredulity, they were just flabbergasted. They were so lost, Doc. And I loved every second of it. I was like, I love it. I've had to deal with Democrats for the last, Lord knows how long. And they were like, if Trump wins, and you could tell, they knew he was going to take Florida. And they were like, if he takes Florida, he can win this thing. And everything changed. It was like a laughing fest all night long. We're just waiting for Hillary to come and win. And we're in the same place right now. The difference here is Hillary Clinton, by my estimation, is an intelligent woman. She may make some stupid decisions, but I think she's an intelligent woman. I think she reads a lot. I think she understands this stuff. She's a former First Lady of Arkansas, former First Lady of the United States. This is a woman with experience, former United States Senator, former Secretary of State. This woman has a record. Whether you like it or not, she's got experience that she brings to the table. This is not someone, nobody's going to look at Hillary Clinton and say that she slept her way to the top. I think that's pretty clear, right? She might be ambitious politically, but, if anything, people are criticizing her husband for sleeping around, not her. The bottom line here, Hillary Clinton, they were like, she's going to win, she's going to win, she's going to win. Kamala Harris is no Hillary Clinton, without a doubt, right? Not at all. So if that is any indication back in 2016, what's going on right now, where we don't have a 50-year politician like Biden, we don't have COVID, we don't have so many of the things that made that a perfect storm, a perfect opportunity for them to do what they did in order to take this election, then I think Trump we're looking at that Reagan reelection, in my opinion. I think, 300 plus electoral college votes is really the way I think it goes. Some estimates I've seen and some models show it at, just north of 270. Some show it at 280, some odd number. I really think it goes into the 300s. But again, I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm not a pollster, and I'm not in the prediction business. If I was, I'd make a lot of money in Vegas or Atlantic City. But I'm not. But I will say, yes, Doc, I agree with you. I think there's coattails here. I think a lot of people are going to get swept into office. I think this is it. I think every bad move they could have made, they've made, in my opinion. The fact that the Secret Service is either not doing a good job or intentionally doing a bad job, allowing Trump to be in these situations time and again. And the fact that, and if the tinfoil hat people, my brethren, they're saying, why was MSNBC at the golf course? I would say, thank God MSNBC was at the golf course when this happened to Trump, because they got it all on camera. And there's no denying it. And they've got to run with it because they've got the video. And it's one thing everybody wants to do in this business is be the first one to say it. So I think things are working out extraordinarily well here. And people are people. You're going to get a handful of people like the lady who called me earlier, really sweet woman, Debbie in Canton, Ohio. Very, very sweet woman. But she doesn't like Trump for any number of reasons. She really does. And he gets her angry. And whenever I say something where I support him, she gets angry. I don't think she's angry with me. She's angry at him. I don't think she's ever met him. I don't think she knows him. But she's angry at him because she was taught to be angry at him. She was taught that somehow he is affecting her reproductive rights, her child's reproductive rights, that he is somehow very bad. She doesn't like what J.D. Vance said. And again, I understand where it comes from. It comes from a mean, evil, ill-spirited media that she's consuming. I'm going to go on a limb here and say she probably watches a lot of MSNBC at some point in the day, because CNN's not that vitriolic. MSNBC's way more vitriolic. CNN's more of a liar. They like to form and shape opinion and bend your mind. But MSNBC just wants you to hate. That's literally what they do. That's the big difference between the two. So, Yes, I agree with you, Doc. The Hispanics are going to gravitate towards family values, and I think we're going to see a good turnout for Trump. From my lips to God's ears, right? Doc in Wilmington, Delaware, WDEL. Thanks for the call. We're going to get to the rest of your calls in Vermont, Idaho, Kentucky, Montana, and more straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, but I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with your calls and your thoughts. Let's go to Winston, Burlington, Vermont, WVMT. Winston, go right ahead.
Well, hi, Rich. Great show.
Thank you.
I'll get right to my point. My question or my point is, how did this would-be assassin, I guess is Ralph Root or something like that is his name, how did he know that Trump was going to be on the golf course? Supposedly this was a last-minute decision that was made within the last, 24 hours before he got out there. Is it possible that there was a leak either within the Secret Service, the FBI, or somebody within government that got the information to this man and allowed him to make those decisions that would put him in that place?
Well, I think that's entirely possible, especially with the people that were privy to the decision, right? So they said it wasn't on his public schedule. Now, I guess some people that are following things know that, it's not like he's going to go play at somebody else's golf course, and there's only a few in that area that are his. There's the one in Doral, the one in West Palm Beach, and whatever. And, of course, Mar-a-Lago, where he's always at, right, where he lives. So those are the places you're going to find Trump if he's not on a campaign stop. So, I mean, I guess the possibilities are somewhat limited in, was it somebody from the campaign? Was it somebody from the staff? Was it somebody in the Secret Service? Or was it the fact that, he likes to play golf a lot on on Sunday mornings? And because people know that, maybe this guy was staking that out. Maybe that's why he was there for 12 hours. These are answers I don't have for you, but I think the FBI needs to come up with, and the Secret Service needs to share and let us know. But I also know it's the government. I mean, I once owned a barbershop, and there was a burglary, and they stole some stuff from me. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do now? And they're like, oh, you just wait. Our detectives are working on it. And one day they called me, and they said, hey, we recovered all your property. And I was like, oh, wow, cool. Can I get it back? And they were like, nope, we have to hold it. And they held it for like 6 months. And then they gave me back the stuff that I had already replaced by then. So I don't understand how the gears of government grind to a halt or spin, but I know that they do. Winston, thanks for the call, brother. Burlington, Vermont, WVMT, shout out to you guys. Folks, we're coming right back with the rest of your calls and more. Arizona, Indiana, Kentucky, Oregon, and Idaho. Stand by. It's Rich Valdez coming right back.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So for those who may criticize and say, well, she hasn't done that her 3.5 years in office as vice president, do you think that's unfair?
Yeah, she's the vice president, not the president. So, the vice president is there as part of the administration, not leading the administration. So as president, she's going to be able to put forth her policies and plans and effectuate those.
Guess who's saying those nice things about que mala eres? Yes, that's right. It's her husband, Doug Emhoff. And Doug Emhoff says, look, she wasn't president. Come on, give her a break. She's a nobody, right? Is that what you're saying, that when you're vice president, you're a nobody? Because it seems like that's what you're saying. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on everything we're talking about right now. Let's see. Where are we going here? Let's go to Geronimo, Old Orchard Beach, Maine, WLOB. Go right ahead.
Yes, hi there. I just wanted to remind you, I heard you talking about speculating on the Electoral College vote turnout or whatever. I wanted to remind America that the liberal blue states, many of them, enacted state legislation, laws, that commit themselves to the so-called popular vote compact. That means it does not matter if Kamala wins each of those states by wide margins, because if Trump wins the nationwide popular vote by even a slim margin, those blue states are bound by their own state laws to give all of their Electoral College votes to Orange Man Bad Donald Trump.
That's fantastic. I love that. Thank you, Geronimo. And that's, there's nothing better than the rules for radicals, right? Saul Alinsky wrote that book, and one of the rules is make them live up to their own book of rules. And wouldn't that be a rich moment for that to happen, right? For a Republican to finally win the popular vote and the Electoral College? That would be super cool. And I'd love to see that happen. Let's continue our conversation. Let's go to Norma, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Norma, go right ahead.
Yeah, I have a number of things, but I'll just try to stick to one. You mentioned housing, and that's a big one, because that's how they're going to change the government. And that's because everybody that's coming in to this country, most of them don't have a place to live and will wind up being absorbed. I think they're going to make laws that they kind of force them into housing. But when you get there, you sign a housing lease, and that person that used to be a director of housing is a social worker. And they collude. Now they have permission to collude with the paraprofessionals at the school, to call the police, with courts, all of that. And I think it's to do with the violence in the schools, too, because I think what's happening is people are being played with like cat and mouse games with them, that you're being assaulted by people you can't see, because they're doing a lot of this talk about AI, because pretty soon everybody will be getting it. Well, I can't say that word, but they'll be getting beat up by who knows who, which is going to cause more paranoia.
Before we get down that route, I want to stick to the first point that you made, because I think it's an important one. This notion about housing, I think you're spot on with this, right? We criticize the left for embracing communist rhetoric, and they turn around and start complaining about everything under the sun and throwing in there is a housing shortage. They keep saying that because they're eventually going to try and make a big power grab for this by saying, look, that's why we're putting together the housing assistance, blah, 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 bill of 2025, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've put more money into housing than any Republican has ever even dreamed of. And we're investing in our people, investing in housing. This is a human right. And they're going to just sing their platitudes and try and get people on board. This is their next big scheme. It's their next Green New Deal is housing is a right. And you're right. This is exactly what they're going to do. And they create one problem and then they create a solution, right? And in between, there's a reaction that they provide. And that's what they're going to say. Look, we're saving the day. We're being overrun by people that should rightfully be here because they're seeking asylum because the world is bad. Well, guess what? We're going to help them out and we're going to give them somewhere to live. You can't just put them in cages like Trump did, right? And they're going to play this game. And that's collusion, you're right, not only with the inter- and intra-governmental agencies that are involved with this, but it's also collusion with the people building all these homes and the banks that are lending them the money to finance these things. And everybody's in on it, right? Where I live, there's a big city near me, Hackensack, New Jersey, right? I live in a small town right outside of that. But Hackensack is building upon. I mean, there isn't an empty lot that's not being built on in Hackensack. and they're trying to revitalize it, and they make it seem like it's a great thing, but really they're just overpopulating already overpopulated area. And when you look at the changing demographic of the area, it's clear as day that this is going to be filled sooner or later with new residents of this country, whether they're here legally or not. And this is going to have an impact on schools. It's going to have an impact on healthcare. It's going to have an impact on a lot of things. And, you know, people could say diversity is our strength, and that's super. But the reality is when your kid is in a classroom with 35 and 40 other kids, that may or may not be a problem. I mean, I don't think large classroom sizes necessarily are an obstacle to learning. And I say that from experience, as I've been a school board member for 11 years. And I can tell you that I've learned that myself. A classroom with 35 kids, you can get some great outcomes just like a classroom with 15 kids. But that doesn't mean that you're still not going to need a paraprofessional in there. You're not going to need, you know, other resources to accommodate more people. And you may not have those resources or that infrastructure. So there's a lot to be questioned here. And once you stretch everybody thin, guess what? Everybody's looking at you. So if you're Kamala Harris and you're like, guess what? I know you're stretched in, but I'm going to get you some money. We're going to have grants for schools that take on this, and we're going to have grants, and they start giving out money. Now everybody's like, well, you know, COVID wasn't so bad. We got money for it. Or, you know, illegal immigration isn't that bad. Well, we got some money for it. This is how they make problems. This is what Democrats do. So, Norma, you're right on. I love the point that you're making. It's a poignant point and an important point. Shout out to everybody in Pendleton, Oregon on KUMA. Thank you, Norma. And let's see. We continue here. I want to go to Otis. Otis is in Morgantown, Kentucky. WKCT. Go right ahead, Otis.
Hello, Rich. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for what you do. Monday night, you and A.J. Rice was talking about Rush Limbaugh. You know, he said satire, limb, or roast him any way you can. He can. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I thought about it, and Tuesday morning I decided to do a little tune called the Harris Walls Team, done with the Addams Family click. And may I? Anyway, it goes, do-do-do-do. They're the ticket that is kooky. They're the media's little nookie. 7 weeks from Sunday spooky. The Harris Walls Team. They lie to you each and every day. They like to do things the Marxist way. They want to lead your kids astray. The Harris Walls Team.
That's fantastic.
Okay, Mama Harris hasn't been to the border yet, and she doesn't care. Do-do-do-do. Walls have been reported to move their bed closer to the window in hopes of smelling revolution. So get across the butts election day, or before election day and election day, and let's send her back to California and down to Minnesota one way. Make America great again. End the regime of the Harrison Walls Team.
Outstanding, Otis. Slow clap for you. I'm giving you a standing ovation there. I love it. Yes, Kamala Harris and the Harris Walls Team, absolutely thumbs down to them. Thumbs up to you, though, for being clever with that song. I love the parody, the satire, and the whole spirit of it. Otis, I appreciate it, brother. I got to take a pause here. Otherwise, we chop it up a little bit more. Otis is in Morgantown, Kentucky on WKCT. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, Mr. Valdez, you have one of the greatest shows that radio's ever had.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, we continue with your calls. We've got calls from Indiana, Montana, Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, and Arizona. Let's go to Pat in Sedona, Arizona. Streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Pat, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, man, I heard you on the Levin show, man. You sound
thanks,
good.
brother. Thank you.
I mean, that was a fierce conversation you had on that show, man. Woof, man.
The difference there, the reason it gets so exciting there is because there's no guests at all. So, today there was one, which is a very rare moment, but typically it's no guest. So it's like a 3-hour monologue, which gets exciting after a while, you know?
Yeah, you did a really good job. When I heard you, I was listening to the radio at work, and I thought, that's Rich. And I found, well, it doesn't matter, but what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is I think Kamala is falling apart. And
why do you, like me, think that she appears to be like drunk or maybe a little high on weed? Because some of the stuff I see her saying, she looks like she's been partying.
She's just grasping. She really doesn't. I don't think she has a politician leg in her. I don't think she is a politician. I think Trump is learning to be one, and he's getting really good. Yeah. I mean, he's smooth. He's really smooth, and I tell you,
she's more of a bureaucrat, you know?
Yeah, a bureaucrat. She would be like she would be great vice president, which she was. I mean, she's a yes girl, and I don't think she can be a commander in chief. There's just no way in heck that she could be one. And I think a lot of Democrats out there I've been talking to know that, and they're not going to admit they'll vote for Donald Trump. I think they're voting against her. And I've talked to a few Democrats here in my neighborhood, really nice people. They understand me. I understand them. They're mad at the party for choosing her and not letting her get elected by the delegates. They're kind of mad about that. She was just like brought in, like, you know, the golden child. And they said, what is this? And I kind of wanted to say, well, that's your party you have. I mean, everybody's been telling you the Democratic Party's been taken over by a very much extremist philosophy that really doesn't mix with 95% of Americans that live in it now. I mean, even the people who are coming into the country do not like it. I mean, the illegals don't like it. I mean, I've heard them say they don't like some of the stuff that she's talking about, and that's funny. That's really funny.
It is funny. We had a guest on before, Jesse Holguin, the founder of the Lexit movement, and he was saying the same thing. He said that even illegals that he knows that have been in the country for more than 10 years don't like what's going on with illegal immigration. I thought that was so funny, but I get it. That's how bad things are, that even the people that, you know, came here illegally and are trying to become legal or whatever, don't like this free-for-all that's going on with the crazy people being let out of the asylums and criminals being let out of jails. You're 100% right, Pat, and thank you for your compliment and for your call. Shout out to Pat in Sedona, Arizona, streaming the show at richvaldez.com. Let me see. Where do I go? We'll do another one. Let's go to JW calling from Dothan, Alabama. WDBT. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, listen, I want to say something. I hope everybody hears me and understands where I'm coming from on this. This is very important that we know this. Kamala Harris, I'm calling her the whore of America, buddy.
Oh, my goodness.
Ever since the beginning of time, they have been whore and whoremongers. The Bible even talks about it. You know,
that's true. That's in Revelation, right? They talk about the great whore, the grand whore. Very, very tough, strong words. I would rather attack her on policy, but I understand your frustration, JW. Thank you for your call, my friend. Where do we go from here? We go to a quick pause, and then we come back for Georgia, Montana, Indiana, Idaho. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Voted best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with you, all the American people. And let's see, where do we go here? We're going to go to Todd in Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Todd, go right ahead quickly.
Hey, Rich, doing a great job. I just want to say, they can give millions of smartphones away to illegal aliens, but they can't manage one lousy, stinking drone to cover rooftops in Pennsylvania or a golf perimeter in Florida. I mean, this government is insane. Mayorkas, he wants to protect Trump like he wants to secure the border, because DHS is in charge of Secret Service.
Great point. I will be sure to credit Todd in Atlanta when I repeat that, because I think that's worthy of repeating. You're 100% right. They are protecting Trump the way they've secured the border. Todd, couldn't have said it any better myself. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. WGKA in the building. Todd, good man. And let's go to Sarah. Glasgow, Indiana is what it says here. WBIW, go right ahead.
Hey, great show as always. I want to tell you, I think your caller is spot on about somebody leaking information on Trump's travel plans. As one remembers, right before the Supreme Court ruled on Roe versus Wade, one of the archivists leaked the decision. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, sure. That was a big decision, and they were like, no, it's not happening. Yep, it's happening. I remember. Yeah. And then some dude showed up with a gun and tried to pull up on, was it Justice Kavanaugh's house? I think that's how that went down.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is these people have no sense of professionalism or ethics or willingness to respect our civil rights. And so there's really no reaching across the aisle with tyrants, and we are slipping into tyranny. And unfortunately, I don't see a civil way out of that except to try to secede or do something to get away from these people, because they have shown time and time again they're not willing to respect our rights.
Well, you know what, Sarah? I'll leave you with a thought. Just imagine Trump getting elected, putting together an all-star cabinet, Americans feeling like their fears are somewhat allayed because they've gotten their guy in. Taxes start to roll back. People start making more money. I think we could do it all without violence. But maybe I'm just being utopian. Thank you for your call, Sarah. I appreciate it. Shout out to WBIW. Let's keep it moving. Frank in Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. 2 days ago, Kamala goes on about reparations again for the slaveries in the past here. So, thinking back in the times of the pre-Civil Wars, all the way up to New England, before there was colonies, there were still some migrants coming in from Ireland and places where they were going through some terrible strife and economic slavery, and they were indentured servants when they reached here. They were resisting the British as well as the French. And my gosh, even Kamala's Irish history of a slave owner that went down to Jamaica because he didn't want to give up his slavery when England just wanted to end slavery. But what's he going to do about all us white? Some of the Scots.
The white supremacists? Well, here's what I'll say, Frank, about what you said. You made a really good point about the Irish being indentured servants and never being offered reparations. And I think you're right. And, something else that I learned about the Irish some years ago is that the biggest hanging, I think, was of Irishmen. And we don't hear enough about it. Anyway, Frank, the music means they're kicking me out of here. Paul in Boise, Idaho, you say hats off to the guy who killed the Hezbollah commander and all of them with those exploding walkie-talkies. I'm with you. Genius idea. Brilliant. Paul, one of the most faithful listeners ever. Shout out to KBFI and this amazing coin that I have right in front of me. I look at it every day. Paul, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night and God bless. I'm Rich Valdez.